So to me, the thing is not just about millennials and Gen Z, is as a leader, how can I connect with you? What I mean by that is we connect with people like us, right? So I'm pretty certain that everyone in this call, if you can think back to your first day in your first job, who did the MD or CEO of that company feel like to you? The chances are that person felt like God, not someone like you. Now, the only way I get to be a great follower is when I understand that person, God, is someone like me. So how do you do that? You tell stories from your life which show that you are someone like them. And as you can share more and more stories to show that you are just like that person, that's one way that you get closer. The second, Paul, is if you can show your vulnerability, yeah, through the stories of, we talked about it, of the mistakes you made and what you've learned from it, and show that you are human, you'll get that connection more. So share stories of who you are and what makes you who you are. And so we call that connection stories. Yeah. Let me give you an example, which uh, is not necessarily as a leader, but you'll get the sense. So imagine that I am going to a bank and I am looking for a working capital loan. And so I filled the working capital loan form, and I've been asked to go and introduce myself to the bank manager. Now, one way to do it is the one way that people usually would do, which is a mini resume. I'm the founder of StoryWorks. I've been doing this for 8 years. We've got great clients. I'm a computer science engineer. I studied in Jadavpur University, then did an MBA from an IIM, worked in Levers and Tatas and Mahindras, and we've been working very hard, and we know we can expand, provided I had the right working capital. Here's my form. That would possibly be the way I would normally introduce myself. If I had to use storytelling, perhaps I could say something like this. They say, hi, my name is Indranil, and I was born in Shillong, in the northeast of the country, and to a middle class family. But somehow my parents managed to put me into a premier education institute where almost all my classmates were from more affluent families, tea garden kids and the others. And they always had more money to spend in the tuck shop, the canteen. So I remember when I was in class 3, I came up with this idea of running a comic circulating library, that too with some borrowed comics. And I made a bit of money, and that really excited me. And stuff like that has always been very exciting. I finished my schooling in Shillong, went to Calcutta, stayed in a hostel, studied in Jadavpur University, did my IIM, joined Levers, Tatas, Mahindras. 8 years ago, I started StoryWorks. We've been working very hard. Our clients are pretty happy with the work we've done. And we know that we can expand and expand profitably if we had the right working capital. Here's the form I filled. I hope you'll see it favorably. I'm sure all of you would agree that the chances of getting the loan in the second version is dramatically higher. Now, let me take that a little further. Let's say this bank manager has the approval authority of only 10 lakhs, and I've asked for 15. Now he goes to his boss, and he says, boss, we should give IC from StoryWorks a loan. And the boss says, why? What's he like? What do you think that the bank manager might say about me? How would they describe me? Who am I? What's my values, capability, etc.? Innovative, achiever, different, entrepreneur, enterprising, all the right words that I would want my bank manager to know. So going back, Paul, if you could say that, what is it, and if you take it as millennials or Gen Z, what about you, if they knew, would they become a great followers of yours? And so you can do two things. One is you tell stories about you, which tells them that. The second thing you can do is something I call story triggering, and I've written about it in my book, which is, how can you be the hero of stories other people tell about you? So how can you demonstrate to people who you stand for? And as you do that demonstration, people get to understand who you are. Let me give you an example. So there was a CEO which I worked with, and we talked about story triggering. And one of the things that he wanted to do as he sort of took over the role of the CEO in that company, was to tell people that he believes in equality. And so he was planning to do this webcast and talk about equality. And I said, no, I want you to, no one listens to what you're saying. People listen to what you do. So use the opportunity to be open to demonstrating what you believe is equality. I can't make a formula for you, but use opportunity. And that opportunity came on day one of his job. So on day one of his job, he was being taken through the whole company, being introduced to people. Here's finance, and this is the head of finance. Here's HR, and when he went to the second floor of the company with the storing party being introduced, he noticed that there was something common between the two floors, the ground floor and the first floor, which is there was a series of meeting rooms, all of which were occupied. There were people waiting outside to get in, but there was one which was empty. And there was a sign on it, like it was in the ground floor. And so he goes up to the sign and it says, can be booked by GM and above only. He looks at the sign, tears it off, puts it into pieces, throws it into the dustbin, comes back and tells the touring party, gentlemen, give me a minute, runs downstairs, goes to the similar room, sees that the sign is the same, pulls it out, tears it, puts it down, comes back and says, let's continue. By evening that day, across the organization, people were talking about this new leader who believes in equality. So if you can figure out what will make people loyal and follow you, and then demonstrate that, or tell stories about where you have demonstrated that, those are the two things that can help. I hope that answers your question.